Dear student, have a great day. Happy to join me with the new practical lecture of human histology. And the title is Circulatory System. Alright, circulatory system is like the transport system of the body, and that give permission, or it is allowed to blood and lymph, not only just the blood, it's the blood and lymph, the circulation to transport in different organs body. And the transport system is either for the nutrients, oxygen, hormones, and to a place where they utilize, for example, in the cells, or maybe for metabolites for the waste product, like that, like carbon dioxide, and transport or conveyed to the appropriate place. Here I have a new word, is conveyed, is the same word for transport. Okay, so just to save your time, you don't need to use dictionary. So it's conveyed or transport to appropriate place where they are expelled. Expelled, it's another word, is like eject, or something you throw it, you don't need it. So this is to save your time. And circulatory system in general classified into cardiovascular system, or lymphatic system. For cardiovascular system is consists of heart, arteries, veins, and capillaries. Where the lymphatic system is lymphatic capillaries, lymphatic vessels, lymphoid organs, and lymphatic ducts. All right, I will start by giving like an overview and introduction. So as I said, I cannot repeat cardiovascular system. So to save the time for lectures, I will use CVS. So if you heard CVS, that means the cardiovascular system is the transport system, and the fluid goes to a closed tubular system, and to supplies the nutrient, and also to remove the waste, and it comprises from blood, heart, blood vessels, and all of this is like liquids. Okay, here I have the fashion of CVS system. It's like transport nutrients and hormones, remove waste products, gaseous exchange, immunity rule, and also for blood vessels transport. I said is either carry oxygen and carbon dioxide, or it carries the nutrients and waste. And also another function for CVS is like heart pumps the blood through the blood vessels. Let me give you more information about this sentence. So the heart pumps is like the pressure, and we call this is systolic pressure. It's no more than, it's like 120 in normal condition, and when its heart goes to resting phase or filling phase, and then it's called diastolic pressure, which is it's 80. All right. And for 120 and 80 is like a millimeter mercury. Okay, blood vessel structure. I have three structures. So it is arteries and veins. This is one. Okay, and then we have lumen, the second one, and capillaries, the third one. But for arteries and veins, we have sub structure. It's like tunica intima, the first layer. By the way, the word tunica is either layer or it's called coat. All right, so first layer is the tunica intima, the second is the tunica media, and the third is tunica externa, or called tunica adventitia, the same thing. The lumen is like the central space, while capillaries is endothelium with the basal layer. All right, let me start by arteries. Arteries, we have two types of arteries, either elastic, like conducting arteries, is like the largest thick-walled arteries. An example of it is aorta, which is it's like have a large consists of elastic lamina, smooth muscle, and it is very wide in arteries. The reason this is because is the the blood goes direct from heart, so we need elastic wall in this kind of arteries to resist high pressure, and it is a large volume. And if you see the first layer, tunica intima and tunica adventitia, the third layer, it is thin, while the wide goes to tunica media, right? Now let's go to high magnification. It is no wondering why tunica media is large, because you see we have elastic fibers, we have smooth muscle fibers, we have collagen fibers, all of these in tunica media. The second one of arteries is muscular distributing arteries. You see in the white here in the histological image, you will see the tunica media start by internal elastic lamina and end by external elastic lamina. And for this you will see different. You will see this distal the elastic arteries. Elastic arteries are the largest arteries and receive the blood, as we said, from heart and exactly from the left ventricle. So and it must have too much elastic fibers in consist of, because we have the high pressure. Sometimes it is between 120 to 160 milliliter mercury, and also have thick tunica media and deliver the blood to all organs, and have a smooth muscle, and also for vascular concentration and vasodilation. Vasoconstriction, that means when artery or the blood vessels start to narrowing, while the vasodilation when the blood vessels goes to widening. All right, muscular arteries, this is under microscope. You see it clearly that tunica intima and with internal elastic lamina, and tunica media is also ended by elastic lamina, and tunica adventitia, where we have another structure in the tunica adventitia or the tunica externa. We have what's called vasa viserium. Let me give you explain or clearly idea about vasa viserium. So vasa viserium, as simple as it's vessels or vessels, but still it's not clearly. All right, so it's like small arteries and veins in the wall of the large arteries and veins. All right, it's like the structure, and that structure have arteries, a group of arteries or a group of veins, a group of arteries and a group of small veins in the structure, the third layer of the big artery. Here in this histological image, you will see the vasa viserium. It's in the third layer, in the adventitia, the tunica adventitia of the aorta. Okay, and we know that aorta, it's the big arteries or large arteries. And what the function for vasa viserium is supply the cells. As we know, the third layer and the second layer, I mean tunica media and tunica adventitia, have many cells and must supply by nutrient and substance. So the vasa viserium have rule and supply. Okay, we have another structures. It's arterioles. Arterioles is like the smallest, no more than 3 millimeter to 10 micrometer, and haven't any clear 3 layers. And I write here in red color, give that note. I said the tunica media has only a few layers, like smooth muscle cells. And then when looking for to regulate it, maybe the regulated where is locally that found, or by sympathetic control. So how to define the arterioles? So it's arterioles, it's receive autonomic nervous system inversion and responded to the different circulating hormones, and the the reason to receive this conversion, it's in order to regulate their diameter, and then that is easy to deliver blood into capillaries. All right, this is a slide I would just to give you imagine when I start to explain as how that tonic is, it goes arrangement, and how it is as a transfer section under microscope. You see here we have artery and vein, and see how it goes the layers from inside to outer, while the under microscope is goes like transfer and the layers. All right, now I will go to explain each layer what it consists of. This is like cartoon diagram. I will start by the inside. So tunica intima have squamous, have simple squamous epithelium and endothelium that lie on basal lamina and subendothelium connective tissue. Also, this have fenestrated sheet. What does that mean, fenestrated? I just give you, it's like provide a passage for a nutrient, and then that a moment I will explain in details what that means fenestrated. Okay, this is the first layer. The second layer here, it is media. Media, look at how it is wide. Why it is wide? Because they consist. So the cancers have concentric layer of smooth muscle and elastic fibers with a few collagen, reticular fibers, and protoglycans. And look to the external elastic lamina and with the thinner than internal lamina. While the second diagram, I just explain the difference, the tunica media, if it is in arteries or in vein. So it's thicker in arteries than in veins of the same size or the similar size, and also has relatively more smooth muscle and elastic fibers in arteries than in veins. Okay, the last or the third layer, it is the tunica adventitia. It's have a continuous with and diffuse with stroma of organs, and it is prevent any excessive stretching. Have numerous collagen fibers, and for elastic fiber have a fewer. And the fibers for first layer on the third layer, I mean the fibers in tunica intima and tunica adventitia is mostly the collagen fibers, which is runs longitudinally, while the tunica media mostly is like elastic fibers and runs like circularly. All right, here under microscope, it's very important to know each layer what is exactly found. For tunica intima, it is endothelium, subendothelium, and connective tissue, smooth muscle, and its longitudinal fibers. While the tunica media, you will see vascular smooth muscle, external elastic lamina, and this is like circular fibers. Where tunica adventitia or tunica externa is connective tissue longitudinally. Okay, another structure of blood vessels is capillaries. Capillaries is the smallest blood vessels and have thin tunica intima, which is 1 cell thick. And if you see this, the width of the capillaries is the same, the width for RBC. I mean the same erythrocyte, and we know the width in diameter for erythrocyte I think is no more than 6 to 8 micrometer, and also we have structure in capillaries is called pericytes. Pericytes is we can define this to like it's multifunctional vascular smooth muscle cells of a cardiovascular system that's wrapped or coiled or surrounded around the endothelium cells, the lining of capillaries. And you will see those pericytes when I start to explain the cartoon diagram. In general, capillaries, the location, it's in all tissue except we cannot find capillaries in cartilage, epithelial, cornea, and lens of eye. Where the function of capillaries is exchange, gases and nutrient, waste, hormones, etc. Capillaries have 3 structural types. It's either continuous capillaries, or concentrated or sinusoidal capillaries. All right. So for continuous capillaries, it's like, well, it's probably the most common type of capillaries were called continuous because the endothelium goes together very tightly and closed by tight junctions, but still we have the clefts. The word cliffs in English is like what you see, a crack, a split, something broken. So this is the synonym word for cliffs. But still we have very tight junction and it is limit passage. Where is the location for continuous capillaries? In the skin and in muscle. Another type of capillaries is concentrated capillaries. This type have the endothelium. The cytoplasm of endothelium have little pores, and sometimes I name it a little windows that have led to passage of the passage in and out substances like in absorption and filtration, but in very controlled and very tight, restricted. And that's the location for it is found in a small intestine, endocrine glands, and in kidney. For parasite, as I said, look into the one in yellow color. You will see that is wrapped or coiled or surrounded the endothelium for capillaries. That's the structure for a parasite. Okay, the third one is sinusoidal capillaries. It's large intracellular cleft, but actually is like big gaps. It's not pores. It's like big gaps, and it's like leaky endothelium that can, because the function it is passage of large molecules and the blood cells, and it is found in liver and bone marrow and also in spleen. Then we have another system, venous system. It's like a transport the blood with the same direct of heart, and have two things, have venules and veins. It's like large lumen with a very thin wall, and the blood pressure goes to decrease, and also this system is like a blood reservoir, more than 60% of a blood supply. Veins in general carry the deoxygenated blood from tissue back to heart. Exception, we have two veins, is pulmonary and umbilical veins. We have three types, is large, medium, and venulous. And we have also three layers organization as that's found in an arterial system: tunica intima, tunica media, and adventitia or externa. So I use here under microscope image. You will see that the first layer, the second layer, tunica intima and tunica media is thin. I look to adventitia. Adventitia have thicker than in media. An example of the large vein, whereas in SVC, which it is superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. And when you see this under microscope, but in a small lower, you see how it is tunica intima and media have a very thin and the wide tunica adventitia. Be careful, this is the main difference between if I have large veins and if I have large arteries. Okay, venulus is like a wall, it's thin and it is have large lumen. The intima is like endothelium. Media have only two layers of smooth muscle fibers, while adventitia is thick and composed of connective tissue rich in collagen fibers. Valves of veins, it's like composed of two leaflets, and each leaflet is like fold from tunica intima. As then I said that tunica intima is from endothelium, so it's like endothelium with the core of connective tissue. The main function for valves is to keep the the direct of the blood in only in unidirectional and prevent the reflex. All right, here this is table. It's very important. If you didn't understand the table, you cannot understand circulatory system. Focus about each characters, like a blood, walls, body location, the color, the direction of blood flow, and how it's a flow from different point, and it's how this pressure and the oxygen level. And I keep this slide to give you an help to understand the table, and I keep like a cartoon diagram and under microscope. This is only to know how to study the table. Now I have a different image from your textbook. I mean, from your book Atlas of Histology with Factional Correlations by Victor P. Yurochenko. I took this slide just to give you idea. Please, for the large elastic artery, focus about number 5, 6, and 7. You see the tunica antenna for artery and tunica adventitia. Both of them is not too much, while the tunica media very wide. Now let's go to, if we have vein, look to the tunica intima and tunica media 4 and 5 number, and compared to the tunica adventitia number 6 is too much and wider. Also I have a slide for heart, and here I have endocardium, and we explained the cardiac muscle fiber and cardiac muscle tissue in human biology, and also in the earlier lectures in histological. But we see here another term. It is called Purkinje fibers, which is specialized for conduction of heart system. Conduction for the system of the heart. And I take this part and I put in another slide, and it's like if you have a nice defined for Purkinje fiber, you can say that it's like modified cardiac muscle cells. It's different from the ordinary cardiac muscle, because ordinary it's different from modified. Why it is modified? Because contain large amount of glycogen with the fewer myofibrils. All right, now we have another system. It is a lymphatic system. This is like an overview about lymphatic system. It's like help or subsidize the cardiovascular system by transporting the excess interstitial fluid, which is lymph. And also the lymph must be filtered and checked before they back to human, the system, from the foreign material like pathogenic factor, or such as cancer cell and bacteria. While lymphatic structure, it is contains center cells and the certain cells that is essential for immune response, and also have other functions which is essential to homeostasis and survival. Let me explain something. Homeostasis. All right, homeostasis, this term, we define this term in human biology. So when I start the FCC lecture, who's the first 10 student explain where I explain the homeostasis and how I define this term. And the student who give me a good answer about homeostasis, I'm sure will have 2 marks. All right, so this is like a challenge. And another point for lymphatic system, without the primary immune response by lymphatic system, the body cannot have any able or haven't any power to fight infection and keep it as healthy. All right, this is like a cartoon diagram, how it is start the lymphatic system from lymphatic capillaries and goes up to the vessels and the trunks and then the ducts. All right. Now I have the finished lecture by this slide. But as always, I usually did to have guide for the lecture and to give you idea which is important, which is save your time. I mean, important for reading, important for knowledge. Anyway, so for this slide, circulatory system, here is give like an overview about circulatory system. This slide and this slide together is like an overview. For example, if I ask you to define circulatory system, you need to have idea about this slide and this. Now, the fraction for CVS is important, and blood vessel structure, just to know the structure. So this is for knowledge. The types of arteries, if it is elastic or if it muscular, essentially to know exactly the structure is haven't. All right, vasovassarium as a define vessels of vessels. What does that mean? For, as I said, is the small arteries and veins with the fraction, right? Arterioles as a character, it's important. This slide just to knowledge how to have idea where is this lecture. I mean, where is this management? So this slide and this lecture is only for knowledge. Tonica intima and tonica media and tonica advantage with the fibers. This is only carton diagram, but important to know what's have each of the layer. All right. This is important slide, and the capillaries. This is like an overview or introduction for capillaries. The same thing. When I said introduction or I said an overview, is like, could you define capillaries? So you need to write all this information. Continuous capillaries and thin situated capillaries with sinusoidal capillaries, please just keep the explain without any diagram, because this is carton diagram. For the venous system, please, this is like an overview, and each layer which consists of cells or fiber, and venous, you need to give me define for each one, and valves, the fraction for it is, and very important table. Okay, this is essential. This is the core of this lecture. All right, this slide only to have knowledge. This is also to have knowledge. The Purkinje's fibers, just have the information from this slide about Purkinje's fibers, and also the define from this slide. Lymphatic system as an overview or like